A commenter on my last video suggested that I check out a video about Ethereum and potential SEC troubles. So I did watch the entire thing, and there were some good points raised, and I'm not dismissing it by any means, but it did seem kind of one-sided to me, and the conversation did not have an advocate for Ethereum, so I'll just throw out some non-legal opinions out there. The law matters until it doesn't. The US SEC can howl at a guy in Switzerland while China and Russia buy the heck out of it uncontested because we're behind the curve. And this guy can keep saying how it works, but on the books and reality are sometimes two different things. I'm not a lawyer, but I know de jure and de facto. And if de facto major corporations are using it and writing it and utilizing it and moving to China, flying a high middle finger, who cares? The SEC and the government don't like China's price manipulations, or Russia moving into Crimea, or Japan using Bitcoin either. An encyclopedia of knowledge from a guy smarter than me telling me that the wheel and the number 0 are worthless and illegal, and they're only worthless circles good for making trash bins, doesn't make it so. It's like, I'll be disgruntled until I'm allowed to use wheels and zeros. With legalese in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and until reality comes crashing in, I mean, they can say whatever. The Supreme Court ruled that slavery was legal, until it wasn't, and the 18th Amendment said alcohol was illegal, until it wasn't, which is actually kind of cool. The 21st Amendment, it's like 21, drinking age, was the only amendment where the states roused themselves, and it was to legalize booze. So yeah, I mean, drop Ether back down to 20 bucks. It's like, I'll keep buying it if I can find a legal exchange until Europe and China and Russia use it and the Chinese routers and refrigerators are run on it, and then the SEC just kind of shrugs and says, sure. I mean, are we going to send an extraction team to kidnap Vitalik or Gavin or something? I mean, at times these guys were, oh, it doesn't matter if he's in Switzerland, he sold under American terms, he's subject to our jurisdiction. It's like, well, what are you going to do about it? It's like, okay, send him a fine in the mail or something. And again, with influence and power over the network, it's like, I don't see that as a bad thing. It's like JP Morgan and Microsoft seeing that, then jumping in. It's like, I don't hate that. It's like, I welcome truly awesome forces of money and economics moving into Ethereum. If I invested in Silicon and then those traitorous anti-privacy proprietary bastards at Apple wanted to use my Silicon, I feel violated. It's like, not really. I mean, it just makes my value go up. It's like, I know that's an exaggeration, but essentially, hey. And then these guys bring up, if there's no statute of limitations, did Henry Ford miss crossing a T or dotting an I or something? I mean, if new information changes things, and researchers figured out Henry Ford didn't disclose some cash investment from his grandma, it's like, they wouldn't do anything. I mean, it's dumb, and as hot and heavy as these guys were getting and bandying terms like illegality, obvious as day as night, unlicensed security, and then deriding Vitalik wearing his My Little Pony backpacks, I mean, the hubris of lawyers so cocksure because they're able to knock down. I mean, just wait until Vitalik replaces you with a glorified piece of JavaScript, man. And how many Bitcoins were essentially pre-mined? The Ethereum people were just smart enough to know what they had instead of dumping it out of faucets like 5 Bitcoin at a time. It's like, or what happens if Satoshi shows up and dumps his share? It's like, then these guys would be squawking. It's like, you think Bitcoin isn't centralized with major holders and miners, or the dollar isn't centralized with the equivalent of major holders and miners? I mean, so what if some people have millions more Ether than me? People have billions more dollars than me. They own factories more than me. They have thousands of square miles of land more than me. I mean, like, if you think King Arthur Camelot Christ is going to rise from the British Isles and put us all at a great round table of equality, it's like, you're going to be disappointed no matter what. It's like, any decentralized thing is not going to be totally egalitarian. It's like, that's just not going to happen. And these guys, at times, it's kind of like watching a mainstream, like, cable news show or something. It's like, oh my God, like, Bush's or Obama's executive orders this, or Hillary's leaks that, or Trump's conflict of interest this, or sanctuary cities both side of the issue, or Russia's possession of Crimea, or whatever the expert lawyers and senators or whoever are saying what in this. I don't want to get into politics because I don't really care, and I don't want comments. This is a crypto channel, if anything. But I mean, it's just, you can pound the book and say it's illegal whatever about anything, but I mean, when it comes down to it, reality is still reality sometimes. And all this hysterical laughing at the absurdity of Ethereum's pre-mine, I mean, what do you think some lawyers were undoubtedly saying? I mean, probably the same thing about Bitcoin. It's like, which these guys are obviously invested in and defending. And again, I'm not anti-Bitcoin at all. It's like with the price of Bitcoin going up, like the tiny little bit I still have, it's actually going up too. It's like I'm not anti-Bitcoin or anti-anything. But I mean, think about what could have been said about Bitcoin like a couple years ago. It's like, ha ha ha, it's like Bitcoin was invented by some weirdo. It's like, weirdos, Bob. It's like, yeah, some anonymous nerd in his grandma's basement. Ha ha ha, fake nerd money. And it's like, that was just a couple years ago, and it's like, oh, it's illegal. And it's like, now we have feds auctioning them off when they're confiscated. Like, the feds are selling them now. I mean, it used to be, it's like, you have Bitcoin, so are you into illegal drugs, guns, prostitution, money laundering, or all of the above? I mean, and again, now they're selling it. So, come on. I mean, if the best they can do with Ethereum so far is bring up that this bunch of nerds didn't raise money the right way, so let's pull a Capone and get them on tax fraud. I mean, methinks they doth protest too much. And, I mean, yeah, this technology is new, and it's risky, and it's weird. It's like, I have moments of lucidity where it's like, whoa, you know, like, what's going on? And whoa, if we're right, kids in 20 years, like, might not give a shit about physical representations of money at all. Like, that's unreal. It's like, yeah, so the whole thing is kind of weird. And then they vaguely kind of say they did meet a fiduciary duty, but, like, that was kind of vague, too. I mean, they're kind of nitpicking and making mountains out of molehills. It's like, no, this is serious. It's like, oh, we'll see. I mean, maybe. And, I mean, what they're right about technically, we'll see again. I mean, it will only matter if something happens, and the SEC really, I mean, does it really want a measuring contest with some of its biggest paymasters in the alliance? I mean, they can laugh at Ethereum, but again, I mean, at least I know who made it, so there's somebody to look at. What if they came out and banned Bitcoin retroactively? I mean, the guy says there's no statute of limitations. I mean, what if they said Bitcoin's an illegal security, or it funds terrorists, or it was actually created by Russian hackers as a test of the NSA cryptography it's based on? I mean, in the overregulated world we live in, and I'll recommend, again, watching the Brexit the movie on YouTube, which is just generally good, I thought, concise. There's always something to be penalized for. I mean, only specialized bureaucrats even know the law. And there's some book called 3 Felonies a Day saying that, I mean, the best of us unwittingly, like, legally sin majorly every day without even knowing it. So there's so much regulatory crap about what people can do or can't do with their own money, and so many noses just have to stick in. I mean, this illustrates why people like cryptos and their freedom. I mean, was there theft here? I mean, who feels robbed? And it's not a Ponzi scheme like the dollar. I mean, they're building a functional platform. Their wallet will be a browser linking funds, browsing apps. The technical minutia, I mean, apparently making them criminals, it's like, I don't really care about. I mean, once the project is much further along and Ether is the unit helping the platform run, and commodities are tokenized and the trade of them is powered with Ether, I mean, in a liquid trading environment, all the trades powered with Ether, I log on to an Ethereum browser to transact with Ether and Ether-based tokens, I will in all likelihood at that point in the future use Ether as a currency because it behaves like one, it can be sent like one, it will be convenient and have a viable purpose at that point. I mean, right now, that argument is so early. I mean, it's like yelling at a baby for not winning the gold in powerlifting at the Olympics yet. It's like, I don't get the, aha, we got them, damn the criminals mentality coming out of these dudes. I mean, prolonged laughter, and isn't it absurd? I mean, sure, tell yourself that. I mean, if Russia and China and Europe run with it, I mean, the SEC is going to be the mad little kid kicking the fence outside the party nobody's listening to. I mean, that's what will count, and that's what will matter, is if everybody's adopting it. And if the globe takes Ether, I mean, the SEC will take it, like no matter who created it or how or under whatever circumstance. And yeah, again, there's risks, and there are some real concerns there, and as I said, I mean, they do raise some points, but I mean, technically, yeah, I mean, these guys probably are correct about a lot of things. But just about how he said, like, the no action letter could get rescinded if new information arose, I mean, so could construe as Oliver Wendell Holmes. I mean, there were a lot of good quotes. I looked up a couple of those, but let's see. There was one, I mean, you could argue anything from a given set of facts. So opinions and facts and actions and what's legal or acceptable, I mean, can ebb and flow with popularity. And the facts can just fit any desired scenario. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, we'll see what happens. The law is totally malleable. And when circumstances change, there's just a new argument. And then, as they said, it's like new facts and new opinions and thus new rulings. And then they say they were always right at whatever happened to be in the present at that time. And then they retroactively change their minds to make themselves always right in the present and the past, which is kind of weird. I mean, the law, I mean, as much as, like with blockchain, I mean, that's part of the immutability, like, appeal. I mean, the law is totally mutable. It's like you go back and there's a ruling and then they just change their mind because popular opinion changes and it's no longer favorable. They just go and say, oh, well, new evidence came to light, so we were still right back then, and we're right now, but now we're just agreeing with what reality happens to be. It's like, okay. And also with these two dudes, like on this show, it did kind of seem like they were on a witch hunt. It's like they just kind of wanted to, you know, in the future look back and say, see, I was right, ha ha, now my Bitcoin's worth more. It's like, fine, maybe he's right. It's like, we'll see. I mean, that's part of investing. I mean, you take a risk on this. It's like, I'm not too worried yet. And what about all the tokens, like, built on Ethereum? I mean, would this entire ecosystem be wiped out by the SEC in their scenario? I mean, like, what is the action that's going to be taken? Like, I didn't hear a decisive, like, what should the SEC do exactly? What action would they take? You know, it's like the SEC is not going to bankrupt $7 billion worth of people's money or cause some global catastrophe or outrage. It's like, do they think Ether's going to zero? It's like, I don't think so. It's like, what do they think is going to happen? I didn't hear, like, an absolute prognostication from these dudes. It's like, I don't see a whole lot happening. It's like, again, I mean, to me, it's just like one more panic-inciting crisis to hype and then drop the price to scare nervous people into dumping their Ether should any action or rumors of action be pending at any point. It's like, I'm sure these guys would tear me apart with more knowledge because I don't spend all day, every day in the crypto or in the regulatory specialized law fields and have great bouts of laughing at my stupidity, but, like, I don't think the train's stopping. It's like, I wouldn't panic, like, unless they did send a team and, like, Vitalik was in jail and the foundation disbanded, and I don't think that's going to happen at all. It's like, even they ultimately, at one point in there, kind of mentioned, it's like, maybe the foundation would get hit with a fine. It's like, okay. It's like, send it in the mail, man. It's like, so what? I mean, a big fine, sure, then maybe it will cause a panic sell and I'll swoop up more ether on the cheap. I mean, those Bitfinex like IOU tokens that were worth nothing, it's like eventually, it's like, I don't know, like a month ago there was some article, like even those things like rose in value. It's like, eventually, I mean, this has a purpose behind it too. It's like, I don't think anything significant like would happen. It's like the only significant thing is like, are you totally going to kill it dead? And if that's not going to happen, it's like, I'm not really too concerned. It's like, if it's still alive, it will be able to do what it plans to do, and then it will be insane. And I don't think they can kill it. Therefore, it's like, this does not, like, I'm not worried about it. And then, like, in the long run, it's like fretting about the SEC bringing down, like, the whole crypto realm or something. It's like, like any SEC ruling will affect all cryptos. It's like, if they didn't do it a proper way, it's like, that would imply there's a proper way. It's like, it's, again, de facto kind of saying, it's like, now there's an official way to do this. It's like, you didn't do it because you're in violation of something, but it's like, just like the Bitcoin ETF, it's like, every time they say what's wrong with something, they have to say why, and then that can be fixed. And I mean, every time they rule on something, it just makes it better for the entire ecosystem. I mean, it would adversely or favorably affect, like, every other crypto out there. And I don't think the end result would be too catastrophic. And I guess, like, if you pounce on the people early, like, not the software, but, like, if you interrupt them before they can do what they said they'd do, it's like, yeah, maybe things could get a little screwed up. It's like, if a guy says, like, hey, it's like, I've got a load of gold in my backyard, but I need to raise capital for a shovel, and then he starts digging, but, like, feds and helicopters show up and say he didn't file the paperwork with the courts and tax attorneys and file paperwork and triplicate with the proper clerks, and they lock him up in jail so he can't get the gold or make his neighbors rich for enabling him to get the shovel with their capital. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that just happened, and I'm sure all the finance lawyers in that situation would crow about how they just saved the neighborhood from a scam because the guy didn't pay fees to get approved in the technically exact 5 years of legal fees channels. But, I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous when you look at it with common sense. And again, if it gets enough adoption, I mean, the minutiae, technical, exact, legal subsection arguments kind of become moot. And, like, I don't know. And, I mean, it was fun to watch. I liked this. I generally think with anything, like, if reading or watching is a passive endeavor, you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's easy to get lulled into a stupor watching, like, debates like this or a talk show on anything. And, I mean, sometimes you just gotta snap awake and think of all the things not being said and just kind of be like, whoa, wait, what? And think a minute. You know, had an informed legal expert on Ethereum's side been in on this, which, again, do those arguments matter anyway? It's like, I suspect it could have been like a never-ending opinion show that just ended in an unresolved impasse like any cable news debate, because that's what lawyers do. They just keep filing and perpetuating and talking until money runs out and then one side settles or loses. Hopefully Ethereum smart contracts can disrupt some of that too. I guess with this video, which was kind of fun. Again, I don't want to just be combative with these guys, but it's kind of fun. You know, eventually there comes a time to just stop bickering about the legality and start dealing with the reality. Give it some more time. Cryptos in general, and I think Ethereum will be among them, will just be an unstoppable steamroller. But yeah, I don't want to be combative or defensive, and I don't think that I'm that smart of a guy, but I don't think this is as signed, sealed, and delivered, airtight, Ethereum's over with as these guys in this video might make one feel. So I'm still feeling pretty good. This did not make me panic or want to sell at all. But it was cool. It was good. They definitely had some facts in there that were new. So as always, it's just my opinion, and you can take it or leave it. So thank you.